This talk is about my career path in tech. So, I won't bore you with my full background, but I grew up in Romania and I went to university in Bucharest, where I studied for 5 years. And exams were a problem. Like I must say, it's not for everyone. Like some people just have a really hard time coping with that kind of time pressure, and for me, it's like not great. And I also tend to ruminate a lot. So if I fail an exam for very silly reasons, like I just fumble the formula or whatever, that would just torture me for weeks. And I'm like, why? It's just that's how I'm built. And I started working in my third year of university. That's kind of a thing in Romania. Like you're almost forced to do it, especially if you don't have like a lot of finance. And your parents might not be um, well set up to support your university. You might have to work. So I found a super flexible job where I could learn things, and they gave me a lot of time to read all the basics of software engineering. I literally, maybe the first time when I picked up like a technical book, I read it end to end, which was very good for me. Um, so if anyone starts their career and has that kind of time to read, that's a very good thing to do. Especially since in university, I never really had that kind of applied hands-on development course. Like most of them were pretty theoretical in nature, like focused on computer science, focused on all sorts of maybe more like technical aspects of whatever automatic control and other things I was studying, but nothing of the kind where you would get to develop like a desktop app or like a server-side piece of software. And then like working and doing university at the same time. Of course, university took a bit of a back seat, but that's when I also had the most interesting courses around my fourth year, when I was doing stuff like signal processing and some more advanced discrete math that I really loved. And it was such a bummer that I couldn't pursue that as a career, like do some sort of job or internship where I could study that in depth. Anyway, I graduated. I didn't find a lot of opportunities in Romania, so I moved to the Netherlands, where I found this interesting opportunity in a university. So I ended up working in cryptography, applied cryptography. And that was probably the most interesting job from like a mathematical perspective, and just working with some maths, doing some formulas, um, going to C++, like hardcore, do all the things. Unfortunately, I got bullied. Like I had somebody who just saw that I'm less. I can't really push back. And I had some reasons, like I was on a work permit, I couldn't just change jobs. So this person just noticed that, being my supervisor, they can literally just kind of kick me around and make fun and all of that. So it was really hard to, in a way, I wanted to excel at that job. I hate failing. I don't like, showing substandard work. And yet this person just kind of, didn't really want me to succeed or something. Anyway. So I moved on and ended up around 2014, I moved to Ireland. And that was when I switched to more like software as a service, the SaaS space, cloud infrastructure, um, scalability, distributed systems, things like that. And I thought, for a while it was really nice. I learned all these new technologies. I saw how I can, kind of profit from this hot technology that people love. And it was really easy to find jobs in spite of not liking technical interviews, especially the hands-on coding aspect, where you have to go and write some algorithm on the whiteboard. So that was always a challenge for me. Like I think I started with Microsoft in 2010. I flunked that really badly, and then every year I was trying, like, hey, I'm gonna get into one of these big fan companies, like one of the top tier software companies. It has to work out. And I tried maybe, several interviews per year. I was using at least half of my vacation to study, to prepare. Never worked out. Like each time there was like a hands-on coding test during the in-person interview, always failed. And it wasn't like a complete failure. Maybe one or two were fine, but then there was somebody there who just, I don't know, didn't click with me, or for some reason they felt that they need to give me a harder problem, or just kind of do it in such a way that I wasn't really set up for success. And because that didn't work out, I kept changing jobs and like finding compromises where I had to like accept other opportunities that were offered to me. So that's kind of how I ended up at this point, like 10 years later, where through open source, I found my way in this space where I can freelance. It was kind of a lucky break where I ended up as a tech lead in a company. They're called Optum. They're a health insurance company. They didn't put a lot of pressure on me to deliver things like every week or every day. So I had a lot of time to explore and propose things that people can use inside the company. And this is one thing that can be very useful for people to kind of level up and grow their careers. If you can find a project in the open source space that you can convince your employer to use, and also use that as motivation to start contributing to the project, that can be a very good boost for you because, well, first of all, you get exposed to a supposedly high quality piece of software. Otherwise, it wouldn't get the traction it normally does if it's a popular open source project. And second of all, you learn from some people who are very skilled at writing such software. So you get like, maybe some of the best code you'll see. Most of the stuff I've seen internally in companies was never like really that good, or maybe one aspect of the way I am is that I care about attention to detail. And that's something I've never really seen in private code bases. It was always kind of a hot mess where people just toss stuff everywhere. Docs were out of date, things wouldn't work, etc., etc. And that's not really something I see in the open source space. Most of the somewhat well curated open source repos are pretty pristine. Like most of the things there are kind of clean and neat and organized, and it's like a single person wrote the code base, even though there's multiple people working on it. And contributing to this project led me to kind of grow in the company and get more visibility. And that's that was kind of relieving in a way. I felt that I can just quit my job and see if I can explore freelancing. And for a while, it didn't work at all. Maybe sat for 6 months without a job until I got lucky, and this company called Red Panda acquired this open source project called Bentos. And that's when I had my first contract with Red Panda, and then one of their clients also offered to give me a contract. So now I'm doing kind of a full-time thing, but I have two clients. So spend part of the week with one and the other part of the week with the other one. And this is a good setup for me. In a way, I don't really take on the most difficult things because I don't have the time to take on like a project that would take me 5 days a week of focus. And there's many things that I like to do which are not necessarily hands-on feature work. Like I love to answer community questions. That was something that I noticed first when I joined this community and I started contributing to the project. There's lots of people who are really new to the project. They don't know how it works. They need some guidance, and they want to talk to a human, right? And this is something that people forget, like they might send this, they say, go talk to the AI, and the AI is going to guide you and it's going to help you build this thing. And it's not the same thing. It's quite a different experience when you can jump in a chat and some human is replying to you and kind of calming you down and saying, hey, take it easy. I got you. I can hold your hand a bit. So that's another way to contribute to open source. Just to, answer community queries, do documentation, write blog posts, etc. And I think most of the projects out there could use extra help. So if anyone is inclined to contribute to open source, open source needs you. And in terms of like other issues that I've encountered in my career, like I have pretty bad anxiety, so even now I'm a bit nervous, especially because it's a new talk. So it's kind of tough to focus on what I want to say and make sure I get everything in. Conflict avoidance. So that's something I've been struggling with. Managers, like not everyone can be, not everyone has the patience to be somebody who can, approach people calmly and without like causing stress and anxiety. So then, if I feel that there's potential for people to like, kind of jump into a conflict or say, hey, this hasn't been done the way I expected it or in the right time, I get really stressed out. And it's something that I've been working on, but haven't really figured out. And then, kind of looking into people's eyes when I'm speaking, that's also a tough one. It's always been a challenge. Don't know if I can fix it in any way, but yeah, that's a problem. And then kind of deadlines and procrastination, like basically sleep can also, I can always skip sleep, which isn't a great thing to do, but that's one coping mechanism. And then, like solving harder problems gives you more dopamine. So I always kind of chase after the hardest problems. And then I realize that I'm way over my head and I shouldn't, but that's what I do. And then, it's the same classic, I think you've seen this meme where can it be postponed? And the answer is no without consequences. And the reply to that is, well, that's not what I asked. So that's me. Thank you so much.